of a school. I would like to welcome all the teachers in this session on behalf of MyPet. MyPet is a company, our parent company is Fitji, and they are basically our content partners. And we have built a software product which helps schools in assessment. So in addition to this, we are doing the market. We are also working out a lot of new things, and we also have our online class solutions. So the purpose of this session is first to learn from you also, like what kind of challenges you are facing in current times, and how we can help you out in that. So we would like to have this session as a mutual learning session for all of us. We would like to learn from your experience. We would like to tell you about the work we are doing so that you also have something new to take away after the session ends. And a brief background about me. So I have been into this education sector and working with schools from last 8 years. I have built activity-based learning products in my previous project, and we touched around like 1 lakh students in India. We created that curriculum, and right now nowadays, like with MyPet, we are working on creating data-driven organizations, especially schools, and see how can we create some kind of a scalable solution which will help schools improving their academics. Okay, so yeah, so I will be sharing my screen. I've created a small PPT basically, so I will be taking that help. So I hope my screen is visible. Please just
Yes.
confirm. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So just advice like for all of you, please feel free to raise your hands or ask any questions. If you have any doubt, please ask. We would like to happily answer all the queries you have. And if you want to share any perspective also, please do that, because that will only enrich the discussion we are going to have today for next 1 hour. Okay. So yeah. So today we are going to talk about improving the school's academic performance. About the company I've already told you. So when we started working on these solutions, right? So the first thing which came to our mind that we have to talk to teachers first. So we started with talking to teachers so that we can understand the problems they are facing and what kind of solutions can be built. Okay. So Fitji as a company, like the content which is there is already being used from last 25 years. It has already produced so many toppers, and that power was already there with us. We are already like have understood what students want. Okay, but simultaneously we would also like to know what teachers want so that we can implement or we can provide a solution which solves a real need for the teachers. So the discussion which happened with the teacher, the following things came to our observation. Okay, so 1 second. Yeah. So when we talked to around 300 teachers in India, we came to know that these are the major changes we are observing. Okay. So first one, as you can see, is information abundance. And then second one was measuring the learning effectiveness, engagement, technology tools, and managing the learning experience. So what has happened is, especially from last 10 to 15 years, uh, earlier, like the earlier time, we used to live in a world of information scarcity. Like we had to collect a lot of resources. If you want to know something, students had to go to library to find out something, but now everything is available online. So because of social media, YouTube, you can watch any lectures. Okay, so it has definitely solved some of the problems, but some new problems have come. We will discuss that in this session. Okay. Second problem which is coming is how to measure the learning effectiveness, because right now, especially in online world, teachers are not able to find out whether the students in their classes are learning or not. Okay. So in case of offline classes, it was very easy. Some teachers could make some kind of intuitive judgment about each student, whether the learning is happening or not. But that is something which is missing in the online environment. And even if we talk about offline environment, teachers can put their attention to only a specific number of students. They can maybe find out like 10 students in my class are able to learn effectively. But what about your entire class? Okay. So that also requires some kind of technology intervention, which can help us in that. Then classroom engagement. Okay, so classroom engagement is nothing but to ensure that your students are actively participating in the class and are part of the discussions, and they are actively involved basically. And the next thing is using the technology tools. This is one of the most talked about area in last 6 months, because teachers are sitting in the homes now, or maybe going to the schools, but largely the classes are happening in online world. So there is a need, like teachers are trying to figure out what technology tools can be used. They have become expert in finding tools in the market and implementing it in their classes also. Okay, so there has been a very steep learning curve for all of us to use these kind of tools. Okay, then all of this is actually helping us out in managing the learning experience. Okay, so this has been the major theme of challenges or changes we teachers are facing in nowadays, and we are slowly also like preparing ourselves to actually build on those things so that we can handle these things in a better way. Okay, so the first thing, as I told, information abundance. You can see a statement on my screen. It says that it is not the information overload, it is filter failure. So with so much information available for us, there have been new challenges we are facing. Okay, so one of the major challenges, like earlier we used to have a tendency of collecting the information. Okay, but from collecting, now we are moving to a world of curating the information. Now if I want to search something, let us say as a teacher I'm going to teach a topic of cell division. Okay, if I search online, I will find uh, thousands of videos or thousands of lesson plans which are available on this topic, right? But I would like to know what is the best resource. Okay, so this is where your collection versus curation is coming. Out of the 1,000 results which come to me, how can I find the best resource available for me? Okay, because it is possible that it will just take you like half an hour to deliver a content, but it might take more than 2 hours to actually find out which one is the best. So that is the level of challenges we are facing, and this is how the technological solutions are giving rise to new problems and new solutions. Okay. Yeah. So next is evolving the role of teachers. Okay. So all this is actually resulting in how, as a teacher, we are evolving. Okay. So in this session, so basically there are three aspects of evolution in this. So one is teaching, how the teaching process is actually evolving. Then next is the evaluation process, and third is the administration part. So administration part is basically how the schools run. It is non-academic related stuff, but teaching and evaluation are like related to academics. Okay, sorry, my spelling are wrong. So yeah, so teaching is basically like online classes, how the teaching is happening. You have been experiencing this. I would like to know, is there any teacher in the audience who has not taught using online classes till now, or is yet to experience it? Yeah, as I guess correctly, I don't think any teacher is, because all of us are part of this class also. It means all of you have installed Zoom at least in your systems. It means you are part of some kind of evaluation or some kind of teaching which is happening in online world. Then next comes is evaluation. So classroom teaching is happening, but how do we evaluate the students? As we were discussing, how do we find whether whatever we are teaching is effective or not? Okay. So this is the large theme of this today's session also. We will be basically touching down upon these two aspects. Now coming to teaching. So there are largely two modes of teaching we are observing in live classes. Okay. So the first one is having live classes. Then second one is teaching asynchronously. So with while live classes, what we mean is that like the session we are having right now also, it is kind of a live class. I am sitting in my computer and I'm explaining something to you. You are there and we both are having a interaction. Okay. So it results into some kind of an active engagement for all the participants. There is a direct feedback involved. If you are not able to understand something, you can ask your questions, you can raise your doubts, and there will be people who will be able to answer you. Okay, this means that credibility of stakeholders is also getting built. But again, so there are some challenges also with live classes, like everyone has to be available at a specific schedule in the class, and then it is technologically less demanding also. All of us need to have proper internet connection and have to be available. So that is the challenging part. But some part of these problems have been solved by asynchronous teaching. Asynchronous teaching is basically like teachers can record some lectures, they can prepare some notes, and they can publish those notes online. Okay. So as a teacher, I will record a video and I will share that video with the students. So that is asynchronous. It is not happening in the real time. That is the basic difference. So it means that it allows students to have, or teachers also, to have a flexible schedule. Whenever as a teacher you are free, you can record your lecture and then you can upload it somewhere and students can watch it as per their convenience. It means it is also self-paced. So as per, since I'm anyways accessing them as per my convenience, whenever I'm free, I will be able to learn from there. It is also technologically less demanding. It basically means that you just have to download the lectures and it will be available for you to consume. So you don't require active internet connection. You can work without that as well. So that is the part there. But there are some issues also with asynchronous teaching. So first one is lack of emotional connect. So assume a teacher is teaching in some class and there is no student there. There is no person to give them a direct feedback. Okay. So there will be a lack of emotional connect because instructor does not know who is consuming the content in what way. Okay. And there is no way to motivate the learners also. That is one of the most critical aspect of the teacher's life. In addition to teaching the students, they also have to ensure that students are motivated, which does not happen when you are teaching in asynchronous mode. Okay. So most of the schools are using a mixture of both live classes and asynchronous mode. So this is how we have been running our school. And like if the coronavirus situation improves, we'll be moving to live classes or offline classes also in future. Okay. So this is the basic theme here. Now it also has its own challenges. Okay. So there can be cases in online classes when some students can come or someone can come, some external person can also come, and then they can actually disturb the class. Okay. So there is always such possibility. But with the help of technology, we are able to handle that. Okay. So like as a company, we have also faced like more than 100 such cases where some students came and wrote something inappropriate on the screen or started shouting something. But with the help of technology, we are able to identify those people and we are able to improve on them. Okay. So these are the common challenges and the common theme around online classes. So the next section which we will be moving to is the evaluation, which is about measuring the learning effectiveness. Before going further into this, I would like to ask a question here. As you can see on my screen, the question is, what do you consider? Is teaching an art or is it science? Teachers, please tell, like, what do you think? What are your views about it? Yes, Manisivan. I would also like to add here, like, so far the discussions which I have had with the teachers, most of the teachers are inclined towards like calling teaching as an art rather than science. Okay. And some of them actually tell like it is a mix of both. Okay. So we will be discussing this question, touching down its
As an
question.
English teacher,
Hello.
I like to say that it's an art.
Okay. You think it is an art. Okay. Your voice is not very clear.
Akash, you can check the chat box.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not able to. Yeah.
So you said both. One is
Yes.
scientific art and
It is
science,
a
both.
scientific art. Yeah. 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 So your view is also like sometimes it can be a mixture of both. and I think most of you are saying it is both.
Both safe side.
And you have used some kind of creative expression, and you are saying it is artistic science. I don't know what that means actually, but so just to deepen our understanding on this topic, I have a further question to ask from you. What makes something an art, and what makes it a science? Okay, so to answer that question, so anything which is intangible, okay, that can be considered as an art, and anything which is tangible can be considered as a science. This is my basic understanding. Okay, so for example, uh, I can say that Lata Mangeshkar is a very good singer. Okay, she's a very good artist. Okay, she's a very good artist because we are not able to find what are the scientific reasons, or what, or we are not able to decode her voice, right? Like these are the elements which are good. So that is something which is very intangible. Okay, so like considering the case in your classrooms, when we say like my class is very engaging, okay, that is something again which is not measurable easily. Okay, like your joke is very funny, but how do we know what makes something funny? Right, there is very less, there is no way to actually measure these things. Okay, so that is what makes them art, and these are intangible. Okay, then something is science also. So there are certain things. So let us say I'm a very good runner. Okay, it basically means that I run fast. Usain Bolt is the best runner in the world. It means he has taken least time in completing a 100-meter distance. Okay, so there are ways to measure it. So now I want to say that humanity's progress is the story of converting art to science. Okay, so this is our nature as a human. This is in our nature to find out the causes and effects behind everything which is happening around us. Okay, so let us say 50 or say hundreds of years back, we did not even know how it rains or what is the cause of thunder. Okay, we used to think that it is a result of some kind of punishment which God is giving us. Okay, we were not able to understand it, but now we have figured out, okay, there is some science behind it, and that is why it happens. Okay, so by nature we are very curious, and we are constantly trying to find out uh, explanations of things which are not non-comprehensible to us. Okay, such attempt was also made in case of education. So this happened around 50 years back. There is a person called as Benjamin Bloom. Okay, so this, what this person did is he also like created some kind of a framework which could help educators actually measure the learning progress. Okay, so any concept has some learning stages. Okay, like the first stage is when you are just able to recall the definition. Then the second stage of the learning is you are able to explain the definition in your own words. Then next stage will be you are able to relate that concept in your real life and find some real life example around it. Okay, then the next stage which came was that you are able to mix that concept with some another concept, and then you are able to create something new. Okay, so this is how he defined various learning stages. So for teachers who are interested in it, I will suggest you should read about Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, Bloom's taxonomy. So that is the last, I would say, like there has been progress on this also, but that was the major milestone we achieved in our education, which actually ensured that we are able to measure the learning outcomes. Okay, so that is again related to how do we measure the learning effectiveness. Okay, moving further. The next statement which is given on my screen is whatever can be measured can be improved. Okay, this is a 100-year-old statement which was given by this person called as Peter Drucker. He was a very famous management consultant. Okay, so what do I mean by this statement? I would like to take example from some other domain. So let us say there is a person, and that person is in the lockdown because of coronavirus, and is sitting in his house on a, like, just watching Netflix and movies and news channels. So that person has gained a lot of weight. Okay, so now that person thinks that I need to improve my health, I need to reduce my weight. Okay, So the first step that person is going to take is going to start with measuring his weight. Okay, if I want to reduce my weight, first step I will have to take is to measure it first. Okay, then only I can reduce it. Okay, so let us say I weigh myself and then I find that okay, my weight is 50 kg more than what it should be. Okay, then after that I will do some exercises, or I will change my diet also, so that I can measure some kind of improvement. But again, after 2 weeks I will again measure my weight to figure out which exercises are working, which diet is working, and so on. Okay,
We have strong incentives because of the market forces giving quality education to our students. 30 seconds, if you don't mind. Absolutely. I was hoping that I would be able to finish it.
okay, so yeah, so anything which is happening is closely related to measurement here. Okay, if you want to improve yourself, you have to start with measurement. There is no other option. Okay, so whatever improvement is happening has to be measured also. So these things are closely related in that way. Coming to education, like it has clear implications in case of education also. If you want to improve the marks of your student in some area, first you have to start with measuring it. Okay, so this is the role. Now when we talk about assessments or measuring the students progress, so like students actually are, it is very a dreaded subject. Like students don't like assessment. No one likes to get assessed on a regular basis. This is also one of the misconceptions which students have, because all the types of assessments are not there to actually evaluate the students. Different types of assessments have different purpose. Okay, so on my screen, as you can see, there are largely three types of evaluation we have. Okay, so the first one is before teaching the concept, second one is during the teaching of the concept, and third one is after teaching the concept. So all these three types of assessment has different purpose. So the first one is called as diagnostic assessment. Okay, so with diagnostic assessment I mean that it helps the teachers to identify the learning state of the student. Okay, what this basically means is that, let us say I want to teach multiplication to my student. Okay, but before I teach multiplication, my student should know addition also. Okay, so before teaching multiplication, I will ask my students to solve some questions on addition, so that I know that they are ready to learn the new concept, because their prerequisite knowledge is there. Okay, if their prerequisite concepts are not clear, there is no point in actually teaching them the further concepts. I cannot teach them Newton's second law before teaching Newton's first law. If they are not very good in the first law, then there is no point in jumping to the next concept. Okay, so this is the purpose of this assessment. Okay, next one is called as while teaching the concept. Okay, these are called as formative assessment. As the word itself says, these are the type of evaluation which happens when the information or knowledge is formed. Okay, so during the classes, and their main purpose is to give a feedback to teachers. Okay, feedback to teachers. So teachers also want to know whatever they are teaching, is it actually effective or not? Are my students able to learn something here or not? Okay, so that feedback is covered through formative assessment. If you are teaching something and your students are not able to learn, that part will be captured in the formative assessment. And if the scores in the class are not that high, it is not something like a punishment to the student, but it is more like a feedback to the teacher that they need to reinforce that concept in a better way. I teach them something, my class is not able to understand, then I will again teach them, or I will figure out some other way. Okay, so there is a feedback loop which is present in case of formative assessment. Okay, so it allows teachers to move back and forth. Then the next one is after teaching the concept. These are called as summative assessment. Now this is the part which actually students fear most. Okay, so here again our purpose is to just summarize, okay, whatever the students have learned throughout the year or through some specific time period, how much that knowledge is still with them. Okay, so that is the purpose here, to evaluate the students. So these are the three types of assessment. Any questions, teacher, so far? Please feel free to ask. If you have anything, any doubt, or any explanation you want to have further? Okay, so I will move on. Now, as a teacher, we understand that we need to conduct all these three types of assessments, but how do we do it? So just to take one example, let us say you are a science teacher and on a daily basis you have 4 lectures, okay, which means in a week you will have around 20 lectures, 20 or 24 lectures, okay, and in a month that number can again rise to 150 lectures, or right. So for each lecture you will have to figure out what kind of assessment can be given or what kind of questions can I ask to know about all these things which we are discussing here, okay. So that is a constant struggle for the teachers. And what happens is the teacher's time is mostly spent in actually like finding out the good questions, then writing them, then again taking some photocopies or filling out like Google Forms or something so that they can conduct those assessments. And after that, evaluation also takes a lot of time, okay. Even if your evaluation is done, then after that you will be preparing some kind of reports to summarize the performance, like this student scored this much mark, this is the top rank and all that, okay. So this is where we come in. So this is like time for an upgrade for the teachers. So you will find in today's session that lot of tasks from the teachers end have been automated, okay. So using the current tools available in the market, teachers can save a lot of time and effort, okay. What this means is that if they are able to save their time on these tasks which are automated, they can spend their time in more quality related tasks, okay. So they can actually spend time in improving the other academic aspects, okay. We will also see in this session how we can do that, okay. Yeah. So when again we are talking about questions or evaluations, there are largely two types of questions in that. One is subjective and another is objective type of questions. And from the teacher's part, these are the two major aspects, okay. When we talk about students, students also, like especially in the current online environment, students also have to attempt the question paper. That part is something which students have to do, but for teachers these are the two major responsibilities which they have. Like assigning part involves finding out best questions and giving them some marking and all that, and after that evaluation and publishing the result, okay. So I would like to give you small demo to you, like how easily these kind of assessments can be done. I'll be sharing my screen and I will be showing you two windows side by side so that you can know about it. Yeah. So on my screen, please confirm if two side by side windows are available. So
Yes.
one side, yeah. So one side you can see this is a teacher's portal and this is the student's portal. Okay. So the teacher is actually teaching in class 9th. So let us say in my today's lecture, I completed the topic of atoms. Okay. Now, after I have done with this topic, I want to know whether my class actually understood whatever I did in today's lecture or not. So after completing the lecture, I will just unlock this test. Okay. So after this test is unlocked, students can go to this lecture and then can attempt it. Okay. Since I haven't taught any of these topics, all these are logged. So like if my student go to this topic of molecules and ions, then it is logged. You can see there is a red color mark here. Okay. But since I've logged this one, this is available for me to attempt. This is hardly a 10 to 20 minutes quiz. You can see it is 20 minutes quiz, which students will attempt. And after the test is done, I will not be attempting the test here just to save time here. Okay. So, but after the test is done, teachers and like evaluation will be done automatically. Already questions are already made. Then teachers are going to get some kind of a report. I will show you one such report which is generated after a test. Okay. So, yeah. So this is the test report. This is like after the examination was done. This is one such example I'm showing you. And so again, you see like assigning is just you have to go through that toggle button and nothing else. Okay. I think there is some. Please do not annotate on the screen. I'll clear it. Yeah. So this is the test report. Okay. So let us go down. Someone has raised hand. Teachers, do you have any questions? Okay. Sorry. I think there have been some questions. Uh, yeah. So moving further, I think I've answered those questions. So this was the test report which was generated in the test. Okay. So I'll go through this test report now. So as you can see, this question paper was around 200 marks. Okay. And it was related to all the subjects like physics, chemistry, biology. So it was a combination of all these subjects. Okay. So this was the duration. And now when we go down, we can see how much marks students have got and what are the other different type of analytics. Someone is actually doing a lot of annotation on the screen. Can we stop it? Sorry for the disturbance, teachers. I'll clear the drawing. Yeah. So moving further, so this is the marks by the topper in my class scored. Okay, and attempt rate and other details are also there. Now we can see the test performance of my class. Okay, so this was the average performance, average marks scored in my class. So this will give you some idea about what is the general level of the students in the class. Okay, then subject wise performance is also given. As you can see, what was the performance of the students in physics. This was the average score in physics, which is like around only 25% of the answers were correct. So that is the level of performance we are seeing here. In chemistry, average score is a bit better than physics, but it is also less. Okay, so this is how different subjects performance can be measured. And then, like as you can see in social, the performance is a bit better as compared to other subjects. Okay, attempt rate is also very good. So this kind of data is generated and given to the students, but there is more to the picture. So this is the mark distribution in my class. Okay, as you can see here, the classroom is like this is the area where my entire class lies almost. There have been exceptions, like this is the student who scored the lowest marks and this student scored the highest marks. Okay, but largely my class lies in this area. So this also gives you some idea about the classroom performance. When we go down further, you can see who are the overall toppers in your class with respect to these exams. You can see there is a difference between the topper marks, like there is a huge gap between first and second ranker. When we go to science, you can see student who was actually second in the class actually has scored highest marks in science. Okay, going down further, similarly for physics. So this is very interesting, you can see here. So this is a student, Aditya Singh. Okay, his overall rank is 14. Okay, he is nowhere in the top. Okay, so you can see overall toppers 1 to 5, his rank is 14. Okay, but his marks are highest in physics. What does it tell you as a teacher? Okay, so as a teacher, when you come to know about this kind of information, you will definitely would like to share this information with your colleagues or with the parents, telling them that this particular student is very good in physics. Okay, so that is the value here. Okay, similarly for mathematics, you can see in the top 5, like first one, okay, this student is the highest scorer, that is fine, but you can see there are 2 students in top 5 who are not in actual top 5 in the class. Okay, so that level of data you will get to know, and it will help you personalize your attention also to the students. Okay. Yeah, similarly in chemistry, you can see no. Yeah, teacher, you want to say anything? Okay. Yeah, I'll move on. So you can see overall rank is 10 and this student is the chemistry topper. So like this, you can get this much data. Okay. Now again, we are also going to get a list of slow learners also. So these are the students who did not score very good marks in the class. Okay. So like 50 marks is the lowest in the class which I obtained. So like this data will be generated, but this is not the overall picture here. Okay, I will show you one more thing. So this was what we are seeing till now is the feedback for the students, but this is the part where teachers are also going to get some feedback. As you can see on the screen, there is something written as weak concepts in social science. Okay, so these are those questions on which correct percentage is less than 20. Okay, so you can see correct percentage is written here as 4.1, 8.3, 12.5, and so on. Okay, so just to give you an example, out of 100 students, only 4 students could correct this answer, this question, which was based on this concept. Okay, so this is the feedback for the teachers we have here. Okay, so as a teacher, I need to be more focusing on these concepts. These are the concepts in which none of the students or very less percent of the students in my class are proficient on these. Okay, so that is how teachers can also improve or take this feedback to actually reinforce these concepts in a better way. Similarly, you will get such list for mathematics and chemistry and biology and all so on. Okay, but in addition to this, you will also get to know about what are the strong concepts in your class. Okay, so these are the concepts where the performance is very good. Okay, so maybe you can take some kind of cue from here, and like the methods which you used while teaching these concepts can be utilized to teach the weaker concepts also. So this is how the overall classroom performance can be improved. Okay, so this is about personalized attention. Okay, but there is more to the picture. As in, so when I'm telling you that you can generate the reports easily, everything is fine. But when I also said you that you can also take your time to actually take some kind of quality decisions. I will give you one such example here. Okay. So just to give you an example, so let us say there are 2 students in your class,
Okay,
student
sir.
A and student B. Is my screen visible? There is a blank white screen on my, I have
Yes,
opened.
yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. So let us say your student A is very good in physics, okay, but not
Okay,
that
sir.
good in chemistry. Okay, very good in physics,
Okay.
but not good in
Okay.
chemistry. This student is vice versa. Okay, when we talk about physics,
Okay,
this student
Ra.
is not good, but in chemistry, this student is very good. Okay, so if if as a teacher I know about these 2 students, and let us say I'm talking about a time which is like 50 years or 20 years back. Okay, the traditional teacher, what they would have done is they would have ensured that this student takes extra classes for chemistry and this student takes extra classes for physics. Okay, but now the 21st century teacher, what they will do is they will actually combine these 2 students together. Okay, so this is the power of peer learning. Okay, so using methods like peer learning, okay, we already know. So right now teachers are not the source of knowledge. Okay, earlier times it was the case, if your students don't know something, then you are the only source who can provide the true authentic knowledge. But now they are not that much dependent on you. They can also search some definitions on internet and find out the answers themselves. Okay, so that is why your role also has to evolve. You need to become more like a facilitator in the class. Okay, so for example, if you combine these 2 students together and give them some project, this student will be able to teach some physics to him and B will be able to teach some chemistry to him. Okay, this is one example I have given you. So another example could be, let us say you find a student who is good in all the subjects. Okay, so he cannot learn anything from other, but he can teach. Maybe you can organize some kind of a classroom problem solving session. Okay, and in that session that student will be explaining the problems to the entire class. So even though that student is very good in answering the questions, he will also develop skills like presentation and explaining and articulation. These kind of skills will also get developed. Okay, so this is the power you can have as a teacher in your class to harness the overall potential of your class. Okay, so this is one example I have given you. So similarly, this is how it happens. Okay, moving on. So as we have seen, what can be measured in the class, okay, and these are the different examples or ways we have identified, right? We are finding the data basically to improve the academics, and there are different type of methods I can use. Okay, so we have seen one example of personalized learning methods. I have also given you one example of cooperative learning, which is peer learning. I gave you the example. Okay, so different ways can be used. So this is where your energy should go. Okay, your energy should not be spent in actually preparing the reports or finding the questions, writing it, taking photocopy and all that. Technology is there for that. Report will be generated with very much ease. You don't have to worry about it, but you need to spend your time in these kind of aspects. Okay, so this can happen. So if your time is free, okay. So now the next natural question which will arise is, does this even work? Okay, we were also facing this question. Like we have ensured that reports are available, teachers can take some kind of decision, but does it result in some kind of improvement in academics or not? Okay, for this reason, we also conducted one more study. Okay, so we identified the topic. So as you can see on my screen, there is a test report for some test. The test name is acid, basis, and salt. Okay, so I will be. So what we did is we conducted the test in a class, and again after a gap of 1 month, we conducted another test. Okay, just to see whether whatever feedback was given in the first report, whether it has been implemented or not. Okay, so I will be showing you the result which we achieved after that. So you can see. So yeah. This is the chapter name here, acid, basis, and salt. Here also it is same. Okay. So this is test 2. This is test 1. Okay. So this happened on June 3 and this test happened on June 1, July 1. So there is approximately a gap of 1 month. Okay. We will see what was the result we obtained. This is a test summary from both the tests. So you can see, say this was the classroom median marks. 11 marks were scored by the students. There is a slight increment in the median marks. Okay. Then again, your attempt rate, if we see maximum marks scored is high in this case. Okay. And attempt rate was more here, but it is highest attempt is good only, but accuracy rate is better here. Okay. As you can see. So what does this mean is basically like the students, the answers which they attempted, there is higher chance that those answers are correct here. Okay, it basically means that my students are more self-aware. If they don't know any answer, they will be better skipping it. Okay, they will not even attempt it. That is also a very good stage to have. Okay, so if your students don't know something, then you better skip it. So that was the learning here. Then we also can see overall performance, like subject wise performance. This was related to science, so we would get the test report only related to science here. You can see the corresponding numbers here. There is a slightly increment. I won't say this increment is statistically significant. We will have to do more such experiments, but we have seen encouraging results here. Okay, going down further. Yeah, so this was the marks distribution of the students. You can see there is very variance in this. Okay, so here again it is like club students are clubbed together at a single percentage in some percentage range, but here again we are seeing some variation. Okay, as you can see here, again we have a peak, we have again another peak, like that something is happening. Okay, so what this basically teaches us is that there were students in my first test and they scored some marks, but after getting those marks they worked on the feedback. Okay, and based on the feedback, some of the students got demotivated also, but some got motivated as well. Okay, so as you can see, my class is finishing in this much time range, but here it is full variance from 0 to 100%. Okay, and if you want to see the result of toppers, this is my topper in the first class, but again it is nowhere in the top 5 as well. You can see. So this is one learning we had here. Okay, there are more such learnings we will show you. And this is most interesting part. So in the first test, which happened in June, there was this weak concept. What do assets and bases have in common? Okay, correct percentage was only 17.6. So we gave this feedback to the teachers that please reinforce this concept further in the class so that your class can improve on it. So surprisingly, or as expected, I would say, in the next test, there was no weak concept. You can see here, right? So it means it works. Like there have been encouraging results we have seen here, which shows that the method which we are trying to implement in the schools has some merit. Okay, so that is the brief idea about like when we are asking like this
ब्राइटन
student
स्कूल
work.
से भी कोई टीचर है
Okay,
ब्राइटन स्कूल से भी कोई
further.
टीचर है
So why are we doing all this? Okay, so the entire purpose of this exercise is to create a data-driven school. As you can see on my screen, there are basically three aspects here. Okay, so the first one is, second. Yeah, so the first one is defining the various performance metrics. Okay, so we have already done these definitions for you. You can identify various data points and we can track them. For example, what are the weak concepts in the class? That is one type of a metric we can use. There are many such ways. I have just shown you the glimpse of it. Okay, then you can measure the performance. So the feedback can be given to teacher, student, anyone, and can be used by different people. Okay, then tracking the improvement. Once you have done all these changes, then you can track the improvement and see whether the results you are getting are in alignment with the efforts or not. Okay, so this is how we are trying to create a data driven school. And especially in the current time of coronavirus, when you are not able to see the students, and you need a more objective method of actually measuring the classroom performance. Another thing which happens is that most of the teachers know about the top 5 students in the class. Okay, so they will be giving more attention to them because they are the gems of your school. Okay, but giving feedback to the entire like thousands of students is not possible. Okay, but with the help of technology it is possible now. Okay, and it is a very objective metric which has to be given to the students so that every student will get some kind of personalized feedback. Okay, so this is how we are making an attempt to actually create more data driven schools. Okay, so again, as I was talking to you about how do we measure it, if you can, so in my earlier slides, as you can see, I was telling you about whatever can be measured can be improved. So we are in line with this thought. Okay, we are trying to measure so many things so that at least we can improve some of them. Okay, and this is the only possible way of doing this work. Okay, so this is what our attempt is actually, to convert intangible aspects of your teaching to tangible aspects and improve them further. So again, I would like to touch this question again here: is teaching an art or science? Okay, so I hope some teachers who had an opinion that it is an art, I don't know if it is changed or not, but our attempt is converting more things which are closer to art to science here. So yeah, so this is what we are trying to attempt here. So there have been some queries from the teachers, and it is related to subjective assessment. So one common question which I have faced so far is, it is very easy to do these things in case of objective questions. Okay, so you already know the question, you know the answer, it is very easy to automate all that work, but how do we handle subjective assessments? Okay, so I would like to show you a small video here which will give you an idea about how the subjective assessments can be conducted with our platform. Okay, so there is this video, I'll be running this video. Yeah. on this screen right now, we are working on the part where teachers are just assigning the questions. So writing a subjective question is not a difficult thing. Okay, you just write it like objective questions only, and you just assign it to the students. So this is the part where students are going to attempt the question paper. Okay. And we wanted to ensure that like students don't have that much typing capability, so they can even submit the answers with their handwriting as well. We will see how. So student answered first two questions which were objective. Now the third question you can see is subjective. Okay. So let us see how the student is going to answer a subjective question here. So they have written this answer on their answer sheet and they're just going to upload it now. You can see on the summary, student has uploaded 12 pages of the for the subjective type questions, and these are the objective type questions which they have answered. Then they will just click on the submit button. So we'll be giving them some extra time to actually upload their answer sheets and arrange them in the right order. You can see here some time has been given. So this is the part where you will be coming in, and how will you evaluate these answers? Okay. So as you can see, teachers can annotate on the answer sheets, they can highlight some part and also give a comment on the answers itself. so this is how teachers have completed the evaluation, and then they can submit it to complete their part, and after that they will just publish the results and students will get to know about their performance. Okay. Yeah. So now the presentation part is over. I will be taking some more questions which teachers have asked me uh, in the chat box. So the questions, Leena Singh ma'am asked her questions. So the first question she has asked is your app only for measuring the performance or for teaching also? Okay. So this app is closely integrated with your day-to-day classrooms. Okay. When you teach something, right away after that you can ask some questions which are actually part of your classroom day-to-day teaching. Okay. If you are talking about just delivering the content, like can we run some lectures using the class, uh, we can facilitate that, but ultimately we trust you that you will be delivering those lectures. Okay. But as far as creating the questions and those things are concerned, those things are taken care here. Another question which ma'am has asked is it possible to test selected students of any class? It is very much possible, ma'am. You can choose, you can give assessments to any number of students and you can select them student wise as well. So Leena ma'am, I hope I have answered your question.
Yeah, thank you, Akash.
Yeah. So I think Aman Singh, they also here, we also had a question. Please ask. So any other question, teachers? Rajni ma'am, Rita Singla ma'am, Parul ma'am, Baljit ma'am, please ask.
Akash, sir, one thing, we are already using ERP, right?
Okay.
And we already have this function in that. So what makes it different from that of yours? Like, why should we go for this app?
Okay. So ma'am, when we talk about ERP, no, ERP is so ERP is a very big
Like
term.
when
Okay.
I asked you about delivering the content, like the lectures and all, we are
Mm-hmm.
using Zoom app, Zoom or Google Meet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
here also, if we use your app, we used to go in the same way. There is no difference.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uploading the things is easy, but when we go live,
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that there must be something wherein we can teach and then we can curate the question paper.
Ma'am, both things are possible. As you correctly told, you can use any platform for delivering a lecture. Okay, but when you come to the curation of the question paper part, okay, that is very easy here. You can, so we already have a repository of lakhs of questions which are actually organized as per the concepts. Okay, but you can also create your own questions and assign it in an online environment.
Means the
For
teachers
example.
have to create the question paper. Like for example, it's a half yearly question paper we have to
Mhm,
make, right?
mhm.
So so is it there already, or we need to give you the entire syllabus of ours and then you will be creating it?
Okay. So, ma'am, what I would like to add here is that see, we have divided the entire syllabus into concepts. Okay. So, for example, in science, there are around 400 concepts. We have created 400 concept tests. Okay. So, what this means is that let us say you are conducting a half yearly exam in your class. Okay. And you come across and you tell us, sir, these are the chapters for which I want to conduct a half yearly exam. You just have to give us the chapter names. Rest of the things we will take care.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other question, ma'am?
No, thank you, Akash.
So another thing I would like to add here is that so so half yearly exam and annual exams, see, they are the regular part of our classrooms. Okay, so these are what I was describing as a summative assessment. Okay,
We
but
go
the
for
purpose of
test. We go for test. Like every school must be going. We
hmm,
test after every chapter. Then we
hmm,
have formatives also. Many of the
yeah,
things are
exactly.
there.
Yeah,
So this
exactly.
is what I
So
was
yeah, so
asking.
that is what actually I was also coming to. So those tests are also important, but it is not necessary that those tests will be evaluated in the final performance of the student because their purpose is a bit different. That was the point I was trying to drive here, ma'am. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, teacher? Sebi ma'am?
See,
Yeah. Okay. So if there are no further questions, then I think we can wrap this session up. And I hope this session was useful to all of you. I also learned a lot of questions. So we have got one more question. While conducting an exam, can we invigilate online? Yes, it is possible to invigilate. So let us say your students are attempting the question sitting on a laptop. Okay, they will be working. You can simultaneously run the live class also, just to monitor what students are doing. And you can also, we can also provide you those recordings. So you can actually see after the exam is over also, like how the students were doing and if there was something happening in the answer or not, while giving the answers or not. Another question which Mehmet asked is, Sandhya Mehmet asked this question. While conducting an exam, can we invigilate online? This I have answered. Another thing which she has asked is, can we track if students are Googling the answers or not? So right now, you cannot track, as in, so you cannot track like whether they are Googling or not. But again, the my answer to here is that our content partner is Fitji here. Okay, so they have created quite unique questions, and these questions are not easily available online as well. Okay, so it takes, so let us say I'm giving a numerical. Okay, it involves some application of some formulas you have to apply and then find. Okay, so there is no way you can find these direct questions in the Google, because when you see online answers, so online, like you will find standard questions from the textbooks. You can find like NCERT question answers or RS Agrawal question answers, like that you can find. But since we create our own set of repository, we have our entire team who is working on it, and it is not a one day's work. It is last 10 to 15 years of hard work which is being put into it. So, and it has given results also. So we have thought about all those problems as well. Yeah. Any other questions, teachers? Yeah. Okay. So I would like to thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing. And yeah, so I have also learned a lot from your questions. So definitely there are some feedback points also which we will check, like your question like about ensuring that students don't even go to other page for Googling the answers. That is a very valuable point. We can work on